Well, good morning. 2013 started out like any other day for me and my family. At that point, I was 10 years into my fire service career. My daughter was 7 years old. Her mom, 34 years old. I was assigned to the training division, teaching new firefighters how to be firefighters. Coaching softball, her mom helping with cheer, all the things that families do. On March 27th of 2013, her mom, my wife, suffered an unexpected medical emergency. And myself and a police officer were the first ones to her. And like I had done hundreds of times in 10 years, I did CPR. My police officer friend called 911, started doing the things that I knew to do. My daughter was 7 years old. I instantly wanted to stay calm in the chaos. I wanted to get her out of here. I had no one to really help move her out. So she saw things I wish that she hadn't seen. Eventually, we got her out of the room. Fast forward 6 or 7 minutes, my own fire department comes into the room, and off to the hospital Jessica goes. As you can imagine, your mind is spinning, you're gambling, now you're praying, you're asking all these things. We did get a pulse back. That felt good to me as a first responder. Still confused what was going on. The night comes, families were coming in, friends, her parents, my parents. I had to get my parents to watch Carly. We were all called into a room the next day. And we're thinking things were going to be okay because we had gotten some information that things were improving a little bit over the night. So we get there and we all go into the room. Her parents, me, my parents are at home with Carly, and we're standing there at the bedside, and she's all hooked up to everything, how that looks. And the doctor said, "There's nothing more we can do. We've run every test. We've looked at every angle of this situation here, and she's going to die." And she did. Trauma affects your brain and your memory a little bit, and I found myself really right now, I don't have a really good memory of those moments. But I knew I had to get in my vehicle and drive 45 minutes home and tell a 7-year-old little girl who still believed in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, still believed in the Tooth Fairy, and believed that a prince could kiss a princess and wake her up from a deep sleep. I've got to tell her mom is gone and never coming back. I knew I had to do that. So I had to stay ready for that conversation. Fast forward, I get home, I walk into my house, I look at my parents are shaking their head, I'm shaking my head no. My mom and dad begin to cry, I start to cry, I walk into the bedroom, take a deep breath, and what do? I get on one knee, and I changed her life and my life forever. Well, 2013 to me was the beginning of a mental health setback that I didn't want to admit. I was kind of already struggling a little bit on the job. I had hypervigilance. I had some things going on I really wasn't talking about, and I struggled. It was a long 7 years of struggling. From the outside looking in, you really couldn't see too much. I got promoted to lieutenant. I was a coach on the softball team. I was doing this. I was doing that. Things looked pretty powerful. There were probably signs of some irritability and some anger. People probably saw some things, right? They probably saw something. I was searching for positivity. I did some counseling, did some therapy. Nothing was really happening. My daughter seemed to be thriving. She was doing better because she was so young. She didn't remember really all of that. She didn't remember some of the stuff. Now she talks about it. Continue on in a fire service career, lost several other friends, Brad Clark, other people, and the trauma continued to pile on. And one day the book Overcome was dropped in my hand. And I had been to therapy, I'd been to counseling, EAP, different things, and I decided to read the book Overcome. I didn't know who he was, I didn't know what that was about, but I read the book Overcome. And the Pentagon of Peak Performance shot me in the chest to a point where I was like, mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, physically, I am all over the place. And when I got hit with that ambush, I was all over the place. And he talked about preparing yourself for what is going to happen in your life, and I wasn't prepared for something that tragic. I started diving into that Pentagon and Peak Performance, and I reached out to Erica Redmond that night, and I said, I don't know you guys. I'm not sure what your husband's history is, but tell him that as a firefighter in Chesterfield County tonight that's going to get some sleep because he believes he knows what's wrong with him. He knows that he is struggling in this thing he calls the Pentagon and Peak Performance, and I'm going to get better. And I'm going to move through this. That's one of their last pictures together. So with reading that book, it pushed me into a direction of wanting to lean into healing myself and then helping others heal. Because along the way, people coming my way, they were telling me they had lost people, they were hurting, they were drinking too much. I decided to do something about all of this, and I started Operation Yellow Tape. In Operation Yellow Tape, the organization, the back of all of my shirts is there are too many of us to ever feel alone, because sometimes we feel alone. And I think to myself, I was working inside that yellow tape. All of y'all are inside of a yellow tape at your jobs. You're in the yellow tape. Capital One, fire, police, whatever it might be, that's your yellow tape. I was in it. But on the outside of the yellow tape is where these things knock us to the ground. It's the divorces, the child custody battles, the finances, your wife unexpectedly dying, being hired, fired, demoted, promoted, stresses of life. Does that make sense? The stresses of life are on the outside of the yellow tape. And for me as a first responder, I was dealing with all this stuff at work too. Sleep deprivation, hypervigilance, not getting good rest, eating well. I was bringing all that into the yellow tape, but it's outside to me. And it hit me one day, leaning into the Pentagon Peak Performance, leaning into so many of those principles, and I thought to myself, it's the outside that hurts us. Talking to firefighters and first responders and those who weren't even first responders, they would always tell me, it's not really the calls that hang on our minds that hurt me so much, Kenny. It's the fact that I'm eating a Christmas dinner by myself. My wife left me. I got to file bankruptcy. It's the outside the yellow tape that will burn our lives down. And I thought about that, and I leaned into it. In Operation Yellow Tape, our mission is to provide quality resources, education, events, have people on the stage to share their story, because I'm a true believer is that your story can possibly become someone's survival guide. Just that one little nugget they may share with you. If they can get through it, so can you. Because honestly, when I look back, I wasn't prepared for, nobody is, but there are things that I could have done, and I help firefighters now and police officers and military and folks who don't do this job. I help them prepare for something bad that's coming, because something bad's coming. Just a matter of time. Aging parents, different things are going to happen to us. I'm proud to say that since the 2020 getting into the Pentagon, I'm 27 pounds lighter. I've taken care of myself better, and bad things have happened since then. I've lost a really good friend to suicide since having this new mindset. But with that new mindset, with taking care of myself the best I can physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, I handled that so much better. Still was tragic, but I was able to stand back up quicker. My life didn't crumble around me like it did when she died, because my life crumbled around me. And without my supportive family, things probably would have gotten a lot worse. I talk to my daughter now, she's 18 years old. She has very little memory of me being out of control, slamming weed eaters all over the place, being angry about everything, spill coffee and it's the end of the world. It's not nothing about the coffee. It's because you just lost your wife and you're struggling and you don't know how to reach out for help. So with that being said, Operation Yellow Tape leans into the mental health, and it helps folks who, like me, understand what mental health is about. Some people don't have any idea what hypervigilance is. They never had their testosterone checked. Low T mimics depression. They have no idea what sadness is. They don't really know their coworkers. We lean into so much stuff in the community of folks who don't even do the first responder job. Get to know your crews. Know what's happened in your life. If you work for me, I wanted to know what happened. So we provide quality resources. We provide education. We provide events and get-togethers. And we believe that if we just share our story, no matter what job we do, we can get through anything. Because I had this belief that if you didn't wear the turnout gear and you hadn't seen what I've seen and smelt what I've smelt and heard what I've heard and a screaming mother over your ear while you're doing CPR on a child, there's no way I can relate to you. I can't tell you anything about my problems. That's why I sat with him, Tom, for over 7 hours, both of us in turnout gear. Neither one of us spoke to each other about any of our problems, and 17 days later, he took his life. So that sitting together wearing turnout gear doesn't work. It doesn't work. We think it does because we're firemen and we're policemen and we're military or we're this, we're that. I can only talk to you. That's what Operation Yellow Tape is about. We want to spread the message that you don't have to wear this gear. You just have to tell your story. You have to talk. I feel, that's a recent picture of me and Carly, I feel that how I handled it for 7 years was difficult. But her watching me over the last several have really helped her. She talks about it. She talks about, Dad, the way you have handled this, she's right now a freshman at ODU. She's had some setbacks with different things, but she's like, watching you handle that. First off, I have no idea how you did it when I was 7, 8, 9, and 10, but you did it. And I'm not a therapist, and I'm not a counselor, and I'm not a doctor, but with Operation Yellow Tape, we can get people in those directions. If you need help with your physical fitness, I know personal trainers. If you need help with therapy, I know therapists. If you need help with a doctor, I know good doctors. I know people who specialize in the first responder community, and that's what I'm trying to do. Because the thought of somebody feeling like I felt for 7 years is not going to happen again if I can help it. So I'm surrounding myself with people who have stories and aren't afraid to share them, who want to come forward and talk about it, who want their story, no matter how hard it might be, to be someone else's survival guide. I'm honored that Operation Yellow Tape is having its third event here soon. We have people of all types, everybody, different occupations, ages. And every time we have an event, somebody comes forward and says, I am living in the darkness. So I tell everybody with Operation Yellow Tape that, as we're teaching some of the first responders and talking to their spouses and things, you have to be fierce in the early recognition of a mental health decline in those that you live with, those that you love, those that you work with, and especially yourselves. Because I knew something was going on, but I refused to do nothing, did nothing about it. But this ends well, it ends strong because I feel strong, I feel good, I'm doing well, I'm helping others, I've owned this, the pain. My daughter just finished her first year of college. Hopefully she'll be working down here a little bit over the summers. And there is light. And Jay talks about it sometimes, that sometimes these endings lead to a positive start of something else, a new beginning. And I feel like that's what Operation Yellow Tape did for me. It helped me start a new beginning, and it helped me help others start a new beginning as they navigate that darkness that sometimes ends our lives. So thank y'all for listening.